My name's Philippe Rossiter. I'm Chief Executive of the Institute of Hospitality, which is the professional body for managers in the hotel and catering sector. We've been around for over 70 years. We have managers in all sectors of the industry, not just simply hotels. And last year we ran a series of sessions or seminars such as this one this morning, and they were so successful that the organisers asked to come back. So we've been doing these yesterday and today, and this is the last of 3 we've been running today. In case you're wondering why there's all these Bloomberg pull-up stands here, Bloomberg are one of the show sponsors, and they were elected to sponsor the hotel programme, and we as the Institute have been organising the content of the programme. So that's the difference. Yep, please come in, take seats. This session is labelled technology, and there is a subtitle to it, but I've noticed in the WTM brochures that a lot of the subtitling wasn't particularly apparent. And just so you know the context of that, because technology is a simple word, but it covers a multitude of things. The subtitle was Evolving Technologies Replacing Human Contact, Improving Service or Diluting Relationships. And it's in that context that we want to discuss how technology is interfacing with the customer, interfacing within the business, making our lives easier, perhaps not making our lives easier, and whether that's going to require changes in the way that we manage our businesses in the future. And with the rapid advances in technology in all sorts of fields, and we're not just talking about back office systems here, we're talking about in-room technology, food waste, front desk operations, you name it. There's not a single operation now within a hotel where the changes in technology are not having a direct impact. It's okay, don't worry, come in. It's like being at university, isn't it? I mean, all the graduates or the undergraduates sort of meander in and out of the lecture room, willy-nilly throughout the lecture. It wasn't meant to be a criticism, it's a fact, isn't it? I went to university as a mature student, just as an anecdote, and I was in my late 30s, and I was in the army, and I spent 30 years in the army, and of course, being very well disciplined, I mean, I would turn up 5 minutes before the lecture started. I was all sat in the front row with my pad ready, and throughout the rest of the hour or an hour and a half of lecture, people would wander in and out, and they'd sit anywhere and eat and drink, and it was it took me a long while to get used to that. The really frustrating thing is that they would come in, scribble away on a pad, and I thought they were taking notes. Actually, they were writing their assignment, which they would hand in as they left the lecture, because it was the last minute, and they'd get an A, and I'd only get a B, and I've been slaving over it for a week beforehand. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Things have changed since then. We have a panel of diverse expertise, if I can put it that way, in front of us today. And I will ask them to introduce themselves once I've sat down with them. But Casey Davey, who's the Vice President for Europe for Rate Tiger. Rate Tiger are one of the business partners of the Institute of Hospitality. Very pleased to have them on board. Rupert Guttridge, who's the, just give me his card, make sure I get the title right. He's the Regional Sales Director for Ideas for the European, Middle East and Africa area. Ideas also one of our business partners. And out on the cold, because he's not one of our business partners, Hugh O'Connor, who runs a company called Moo, and he'll tell you a little bit more about that now. So please welcome the panel. I will also apologise for from the technology. We are the barrier between you and pretty fierce cold air conditioning coming in behind. Okay, so for the people in the front, you're fortunate that you've got a tablecloth here protecting the draft that's coming under our backs. And having sat here for 3 sessions now, I'm chilled to the core. Anyway, technology is fine when it works properly, isn't it? Anyway, Hugh, perhaps if I could ask you to perhaps introduce yourself and the background to your company.
Yeah, sure. I suppose my background in hospitality comes from, I was managing director of a company called City Inn, which changed its name to Mint and has recently been acquired by Blackstone and is coming into the the Hilton portfolio. I was managing director there for 10 years. My background prior to that was more in telecoms, actually. I worked for Orange and Cable & Wireless and always had an interest in technology. Since moving on from CityIn, one of the things that I've got involved with, I have an in-room entertainment technology business called Moo, which is basically the initials of the 4 founding members, MOOWO. I won't go into any more detail than that. Whilst I was at CityIn, I developed a solution for in-room entertainment which was different to the standard mechanism of in-room entertainment. It was based around putting a fully functioning Apple computer in the guest room and integrating all entertainment through that. And it's basically that and other hospitality technology services that we're now selling through Moo.
Okay, that's it. Rupert?
Okay, yes, hello. My name is Rupert Guttridge, and as we said, and I work for Ideas. Ideas are a revenue management company, and they look at revenue optimization, how to make the best out of a hotel's revenue situation. I've been in the industry for quite a long time, selling various technology solutions, from point of sale through PMS, through all sorts of other bits and pieces. So hopefully we'll have some interesting questions from everyone today and see what we can do.
As introduced, my name is Casey Davey. Represent a company called eRevMax and Rate Tiger. We specialize in online distribution, channel management, which is helping the hoteliers manage their third parties such as Expedia, Booking.com, etc., and benchmarking as well as review management and social media channels. And we'll focus in terms of helping hotels use our technology to make their lives easier and save them time. And hopefully we'll have an interesting conversation. I also have a background in marketing and loyalty programs and from the service side, so seeing how technology has helped us with different services and different platforms, it should be something that we can definitely touch on today.
Thank you. Thank you, panel. And the panelists have all sort of suggested that they're looking forward to questions, and just want to reassure you that we're not going to sit here speaking at you or to you, but we do want this to be interactive. So throughout the session of 1 hour, slightly less than that now, I'll be coming to you to get your involvement and your engagement, because I think that's a much more worthwhile exercise in sessions like this. But perhaps to get us off to a start, I'm looking at Hugh. As a previous operator, as a hotelier, when you look at one of the subsets of the questions here, which talks about improving service or diluting relationships, do you have a view on that?
Absolutely, yeah. And there are a number of, I suppose, controversial areas here in technology and its impact on the guest experience. I think fundamentally, that's what it's got to be about. It's got to be guest experience, giving the guest what they want when they want it. It's sort of like leaping into the biggest, most obvious issue, but probably the biggest area of debate we had in this regard at CityIn was the automated check-in, check-out machines. Are they a good thing? Are they a bad thing? There was quite a lot of press in the industry, and some of it may be coming from the Institute, saying that there were big concerns that with the advent of such machines, you'd be taking away one of the fundamental pillars of hospitality, welcoming a guest to your property, welcoming a guest to your hotel. And I totally get that, but I also totally get why those machines have been so successful in train stations, why they've been so successful in airports. Where we got to was really thinking, well, perhaps it's more a matter of customer choice. And we were a company with large city centre hotels, so you're talking 460 bedrooms, handling huge volumes of check-ins, check-outs every day. We weren't really coming at it from a let's save a few heads on the reception desk point of view. It's more a case of giving customers what they want. And certainly when we looked into doing it, we were actually going to have to staff up the manning of those machines to guide guests through the journey of using those machines. We tried with an earlier iteration of the machines, and the software wasn't good enough, and we ended up taking them out of the lobby. There are now much better versions of those machines around, and I think you'll see them become more prevalent in certain types of hotels. I don't necessarily think it takes away from hospitality. I think it's down to the customer to choose what they want to use.
And is that, I suppose you can certainly differentiate with the kind of property, but you're saying is that as that's an approach that would apply across the whole of the hotel sector.
I think it would vary on the type of property. So you wouldn't expect to walk into the Ritz, say, and use an automated check-in, check-out machine. If you were in a large budget hotel with many rooms, then that may be the most efficient way of doing it. For us, we were sort of like more 4-star, but we saw it as being an addition to service, really.
And when you're looking at perhaps some of the systems that you operate, perhaps Rupert, that do you find that it's you're providing what the business wants, or are they doing it from a business perspective or from a customer point of view?
I think you break your business down by market segment. You need to know where your business is coming from and who they are. I can speak, personally as a traveller and as someone who stays in hotels. I know that when I'm travelling, Monday to Friday, I'm always in an airport or always in a hotel lobby or something like that. I don't really want too much involvement with the person behind the front desk. It doesn't matter what standard of hotel it is. I just want to get from the front door to the room as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So I consider it a very good level of service if the hotel is offering check-in via a kiosk or whatever. If I go on a holiday out to the Far East or something like that, and to a lovely resort, not that I do that very often, that would be lovely if I did, but if I do, I don't expect to see a kiosk there, because you've got all the time in the world. It's about time pressure and that type of thing, so I wouldn't expect to see it there, even though I'm a very big fan of that type of technology in a city centre business sort of environment. So I think it's, as you said, it depends on the type of hotel. I don't think it depends on the type of person you are. On one day of the week you could like to use it, and on another day of the week you wouldn't want to use it. So that would be my view.
I slightly disagree with what you were saying earlier. In terms of, I actually think it's an added value product. In terms of when you look at kiosks, it's one of those things that's better to have and give your customers the option of doing it. So when you said, in terms of, I mentioned more for you wouldn't expect it in a luxury hotel. I think moving forward in the future, we're going to start seeing them popping up a lot more. I know Marriott's installed a number of them, and there's a couple of other luxury properties that are starting to investigate the options of having them, because if you add the human element on top of having that convenience, you're giving your customer at the end of the day a better experience altogether. So you get with the staff and technology working together. Yeah,
sorry, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. I suppose I get it a lot more in a city centre Marriott than I do in something like the Lanesborough or the Dorchester or the Ritz, really. But who knows? There are plenty of tech-savvy people going to those hotels as well. So.
I guess the other thing is that you can rely most definitely on a system like that to deliver a consistent service. So I'm talking about things like upselling, the ability for a kiosk to offer upselling functionality, to offer other services is always there. Somebody who's stood behind the front desk of reception, they see the queue building up, they're not going to spend too much, they're going to minimise their contact with the guest at the front desk, because they're going to say, I need to get to the next guest and the next guest. So the good thing about a kiosk, it does deliver a consistent level of service that might not necessarily be delivered because of other pressures that staff find behind the front desk.
I mean, we tended to focus on on one area there, and for understandable reasons, because come back to Hugh's point about giving the customer what they want. I mean, there is often a counter argument that says actually most customers don't know what they want, and the most innovative areas of development, particularly in technology, is where companies have seen in advance and created a demand, and there are plenty of examples of that. So in that kind of context, do you see from your engagement with the industry whether it's these kind of solutions, not just kiosks, but other solutions, are they really being driven by the customer, or are GMs and hotel companies themselves actually recognising that there are sort of technological supports now which will enhance their offer and create a kind of an added value, as Casey was saying, for their particular brand or their particular independent hotel? Is that something that companies are coming to you more for than they did in the past?
I would say there are very few people out there, who go against the grain and invent something completely different. as you say, it's as Henry Ford said, before the car was invented, if you'd asked people what they wanted, they'd have said a faster horse. And he invented the car, which was not what people were asking for, but it turned out to be a great success. Now, there are a few examples of people who come up with something totally radical and change the market completely. Most businesses these days tend to be, we'll develop something when we know there's a demand for it. So if somebody's looking for something, hey, well, let's build it and let's sell it, So it's very difficult to come up with those unique ideas and something that, you're prepared to invest a lot of money in and then put it out to the marketplace for it only to flop, because there's been plenty of examples of those too.
I think you have to break down technology from a hotel's point of view in terms of the back end and the front end systems, what the consumer is actually going to interact with, and what the hoteliers are using themselves. Definitely from a user point of view, I think you look at the boutique hotels that are becoming a lot more popular today. Those hoteliers are definitely trying to make their product, their hotel rooms, or using in-room experiences in terms of in-room technology to make it a new experience for their guests, to hopefully win that loyalty. So I think on that side, yes, the consumers are driving that because to meet that desire. But on the other end, on the back end, you have the hoteliers who are definitely driving it, and they're in our side of things, which is you have the revenue managers driving that, and also the consumers, because with the internet, there's so much more information that's out there and available to them. So they have to react. So you could actually retracting myself, but the consumers in a way are driving things because they have so much more power than they did 10 years ago.
I think as a hotelier, you're probably doing things for two fundamental reasons. One is to try and make your business as efficient as possible while still providing great service to your customers. So technology has a huge part to play in that. It can border on the sort of interference with impact on customer experience if you push it too far. So a lot of the criticism going back to kiosks was that people are just going to strip out receptionists and people are going to be dealing with machines rather than with people, and that was just hotels driving through things for the sake of financial efficiency rather than thinking about the customer experience. But efficiency will always be a factor when you're running a hotel, is balancing that with the customer experience. The other thing is then, you want to make your customers as happy as possible so that they come back and stay with you, and some of that is about coming up with little innovations and big innovations which to try and differentiate yourself from your competitors. So for us at City Inn, we were sort of like a new brand of hotel trying to be the alternative to the typical chain hotel. We had a bit more flexibility in terms of the things we could try and introduce. So sort of to the point you were making there, that no one had come to us and said, wouldn't it be great to put a computer in the guest room? We thought, wouldn't it be great to put a computer in the guest room? They're so prevalent in everything we do, in all our lives, at work, in the office. Why shouldn't you have one in a hotel room? Once upon a time there was a point when there was no TV in a hotel room, and I think was it the Savoy who were the first to put TVs in hotel rooms, and now they're everywhere.
First have bathrooms, anyway.
And that's another great point. So there are things where the hotelier is saying, well, this is something that I think my customers will really like. I'm then going to make a value judgment as to whether I can afford to invest in it. For us, with the putting computers in the room, then yes, you are spending a bit more money than putting just a television in the room, but you're giving your customers a whole lot more. It's giving you great customer feedback and hopefully a lot of repeat customers.
Yeah. Well, it's very true that probably everybody's aware of that. I mean, there would have been a time not that long ago where somebody would go to a hotel room and actually encounter a whole range of sort of technological support in terms of sound systems and TV and what have you that they didn't get at home, and that was part of the offer.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, it's very difficult to keep up with what's going on domestically. So you need to keep one step ahead of the game, and of course that also has created an expectation on the part of customers who want kind of home from home to some degree. So we have a question. Can I just ask you to talk into the mic? My assistant, Malcolm, will run over here. You what? He's hiding in the corner because it's warmer over there. That's why. If you could introduce yourself and where you're from, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Umberto, and I have a business called One Foot Abroad, which is more of a niche market in the walking, hiking, holiday. I'm just wondering here, when we are talking about the needs and the wants of the customer, if we are not mixing the business customers, as Rupert was saying, when he's in an hotel on Monday to Friday, this is a business trip. You just want to check in, check out, and that's about it. With holiday and tourism, where here, as opposed to efficiency, we are looking for authenticity. Okay, the hotels that I'm working with are smaller, with 20 rooms and stuff like this, and I guess the conversation we're having here, they're for hotels of 50, 100 rooms or more. Just wondering.
I would just say to that, yeah, no, I agree with you. But I think there are different levels of technology that are required. So when I'm traveling, if I'm on holiday, I have other requirements. I don't have the requirement for a kiosk to check me in, or for my boarding pass to be printed on the phone or anything like that. But it's terrible to say this, but it doesn't matter where you go. If I haven't got broadband access to access the internet on an iPad or a phone or something, I feel a little disappointed. So it doesn't matter where I go in the world. I like to enjoy the authenticity of that region or the hills or whatever, but I still like some of those creature comforts or those home things that you experience in your own homes. So just a different level of technology.
But how do you see the reach for technology in smaller resorts and smaller properties? You want that?
Yeah.
You are in a smaller hotel. How, like you, big companies would tend to sell to Hilton. One sales, you're selling a lot of units, or whatever. But how do you sell to a lot of smaller hotels? Because you want your Wi-Fi in the small hotel in the middle of Spain or Vietnam as well.
That comes down to the hotelier. I mean, the technologies are available to all sizes of hotels. It's just an economy of scale, whether it's worth the hotelier's money investing in that sort of level of technology. I very much appreciate I would rather go and stay in a small boutique kind of hotel in an outreach country somewhere, because you get a better sort of idea of what the environment is like, perhaps. But I still have a requirement, or I still have a preference for technology, so I very much appreciate going in there. It's a different type of technology. It's like, as I say, I don't want the kiosks and everything else, but I do have a technology requirement. So I think it's important for the small hotelier to understand who their customers are, understand the different requirements that they have, and offer the technology that particular market segment wants to use.
Yeah, I think that's the fundamental point, really, is understanding your customers and trying to provide as best you can what they're going to want. So that's how I take that, and depending on the establishment you're running, you're going to have a different approach on that. If you've got a 2-bedroom guest house in Huntington, then it's going to be different if you've got a 500-room hotel in the City of London. So.
Yep.
No, I think just to add to that, I think especially from the efficiency of running, so the back-end systems and technologies that you're also going to be used. I think if you research the market, you'll find that there's something for every level of technology, every size of property. There's some level of technology out there for them. So you just need to find what's best for you. So find the best solution for your requirements. Look at what your objectives are. 2-bedroom cottage isn't going to have the same requirements as a 800 bedroom or 100-bedroom hotel. So you need to really look at what you need, what's going to make your business run more efficiently, and take a look and investigate, and then find out what's best for you.
My point is more that we are WTM, and we are all interested in technology and global tourism.
Yeah.
However, the properties we work with that are smaller, they don't know, and they don't even want to know. Whose role is it to convince them to get that smaller level of technology? Is it to the tour operator?
Yeah.
Is it to public infrastructure, ministries, or whatever? I would love everybody to have inventories, live inventories and stuff like this, but the reality is that it's not this way.
Well, I think it's just that's a debate here we could have on that. I think there's a whole sort of range of issues that fall under that. If you go to Scotland, for example, one of the biggest complaints of hoteliers in Scotland, of varying sizes, big hotels and small hotels, is the lack of broadband access. Now that's not something that the industry can do on its own. I mean, sometimes it requires an element of legislation, but it certainly requires some infrastructure support, partly from the public purse, but also from the technology providers. The service providers have to be in there, and of course it has to be made profitable for them to encourage them to be in there. So you end up with so even something as simple as having Wi-Fi, actually having a mobile phone signal in parts of Scotland is just impossible. So let alone any other technology. So there are some things which you just simply cannot do on your own. But I think where there is a region which particularly a region which relies heavily on tourism, and I sense from your question that you're talking about kind of authenticity in the kind of region where, then I would also argue, yes, I think everybody has a part to play in that, but ultimately people like the tourist boards or the government agencies need to be making sure that small businesses in their sector, wherever they are in the world, actually are linked into technology to the level, exactly what Casey was saying, to the level that's necessary for them. So the minimum is you need a telephone. Telephones aren't new technology, but you're not going to get very far without one. And then by extension, you then determine what you need. Ideally, a website, some way of interacting with the outside world, be that directly or through some agency. So I don't think it's a kind of single responsibility in that, and it very much depends on the motivations of the business itself, but also within the region in which it sits. So I think it's not a straightforward answer to what is a relatively simple question, I think, because it does depend on a number of players. I mean, that's my view. Others may differ in the audience. So.
Billy, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
It's Cheryl from Ideas. I think on the theme that you're talking about, one of the things that I think most people come across is that it's great to have technology in hotels, and for hotels to be forward thinking about what do consumers actually want, what's the next level that we're going to move to, how do they future-proof that and make it stable. Great example is I'm in a hotel at the moment in the city. I can barely get wireless in the room, even though it's offered as a high-speed service. Somebody checked it on an iPad this morning. The bill wouldn't print. So there are challenges with having technology in hotels. How do hoteliers meet that expectation? Because it's really disappointing when you're in a hotel where you expect basic technology to work, never mind all the fancy additional things that you can do, and it doesn't. So I think technology is fantastic in hotels, and I certainly can see that it will become prevalent in, actually I agree with Casey, right from the luxury down to budget, but where's the stability and where's the promise to clients and consumers that that will exist going forward? Sorry if that's a bit controversial.
No. Shall I go first? Yes. Certainly speaking, in my experience as a hotelier, then it's a very, very good point. You've got to try, and any new technology you're bringing in, you always have to think of sort of almost the lowest common denominator in terms of the functionality that a system needs to have. So if you're bringing in a new television system, then it's great if it's a fully functioning computer, but the adage I used to use when I was developing the system was it needs to be easy enough for my grandmother to come in and watch Emmerdale Farm, because that's all she's going to want to do. She's not going to want to Skype her mates or go onto Facebook or anything. She just wants to use the TV, and you've got to remember those basics. So I think it's a really important point. It was the reason that we took out the first lot of check-in kiosks we put into our lobby in Westminster, because the process wasn't smooth enough and it was causing a hassle to customers. So a lot of technology things sound great as a concept, they sound great on paper, but it's the actual using them as a customer, and I suppose as you're a hotelier putting things in, as everything you do as a hotelier, you've got to put yourself in the customer's shoes and say, how is a customer going to experience this? How is a customer going to react to this? And technology is no different in that regard. So yes, very frustrating if it doesn't work.
Just to come back on that, there's a responsibility from the technology providers to ensure that there's consistency in what they're actually the solutions that they're providing. And
was there a particular context on that?
I think the onus can't just be on the hoteliers to future-proof it, it has to be on the technology itself as well and the provider.
I suppose so, but it's the hoteliers who ultimately make the decision to put something in or not.
And I think
Hey, I'm a
technology.
salesperson,
And no, I think technology is just evolving so quickly as well that that it's difficult as soon as for the hoteliers to make that decision. So I agree with you. It is a part of the the technology providers to provide that. But what's the worst thing than having no broadband for me is slow broadband. To be honest, and so
You'd rather just know you
I'd
haven't got
rather
it.
not be able to have it, and I'll wait until I find a hot zone or something like that. But there has to be some. I don't think there needs to be, and I think associations come into play in that. In terms of there's many associations out there that stipulate or try to assist hoteliers with using solution providers that are reliable. And I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, but I would say also as well that this is the important thing. Technology will not replace service. In those events, you need somebody behind the front desk or to pick up the phone and speak to a real person who can offer you a level of service. It might be very well to say, "I'm very sorry, sir, there is no broadband now, but please come and have a beer in the bar," or whatever he says. But it makes you feel a whole lot better. So it's important that technology is backed up with a human person who can deliver a level of service that isn't technology related.
And I suppose that comes back to some degree to Umberto's question earlier, is that actually you adopt the technology that's appropriate to your business and for which you can actually maintain a level of service which is commensurate with that. There's no good going for something which is likely to drop any minute because the minute two people are on a laptop, the whole system goes down. That kind of, so it's kind of matching what the realities are of your business and the environment in which you operate, and putting the technology which actually supports that to best effect. And Casey is absolutely right. There's nothing more frustrating than having it offered and then you can't access it. I mean, you're better off not having it in the first place, because if you don't have it, then you don't have it. I mean, that's just an issue. But if you offer it and it's not provided, it's like any service orientation. You've provided a level of expectation in the part of the customer, which you then don't meet. You're better not to have created the expectation in the first place.
And I definitely think it's having the technology gives the hotel that opportunity to increase the worth of that service. Because if you have technology, you're interacting less with someone. So when they do have those touch points, that's an opportunity for a hotel to actually to shine, for them to actually use that opportunity and make sure that guest is having the best experience possible. And the technology is almost like a facilitator. It's making it easier for them to give that customer value to the prospect or the client.
Do we have any other questions at this stage? Okay, there's one there. Just speak into the mic, please.
I'm Sabin from India. I'm a solution architect. I would like to hear something about how to reduce the budget in the technology and any cloud applications. And as she just before mentioned that the consistency in the applications and the trends are changing every day. And then the application has to change according to that. Then cloud applications are better, I believe. And can you please tell me what kind of solutions are available like that? And paper use as well.
I won't necessarily answer your question directly, but I'll give an example which was certainly something I came across, and it's sort of open source software is one thing for me, and it was something when we were putting computers into guest rooms. It was, do we invest in a whole load of Microsoft licenses to put Microsoft on all these computers we were putting in the rooms, or did we go down the route of open source software? And after much deliberation, we went down the route of choosing open source software, and it's worked very well. And you're hearing things now about major government departments talking about moving from the likes of Microsoft software and onto open source software, and the potential saving that can come from that is huge. I suppose ultimately, if you're going to use it for serious stuff, you've got to know it's really reliable software that is definitely going to do the job and isn't going to corrupt and fall apart. But I think that world is definitely changing, and I think the demands on sort of like economies and society as a whole will be looking for those kind of efficiencies to come through.
But presumably, but in that context, there's also the whole question of kind of data protection and security, particularly in most businesses, but client data within ours. I mean, good customer relationship management systems will have a whole raft of data about individuals and their likes and dislikes, and that, so which are all embedded within their supporting technologies, and that needs to be safeguarded. So
Absolutely.
Just to put a slightly different slant on it though, if I go to a restaurant, I can really appreciate a good meal. I don't really turn around to the chef and say, couldn't you have used cheaper ingredients? You know, I know what I'm getting before I go in there. If I want a cheap meal, I go and pay for a cheap meal, and I'm going to get cheap ingredients. Same can be applied to technology. If every decision you make on a technology solution, you have to weigh up what the benefits you're getting from it, what the possible ROI is for that, and whether it's worth paying that fee for it. You know, so at the end of the day, for example, the application that I sell, I don't want to make it any cheaper because it delivers a massive return on investment for the customer. So, you know, I'm not going to give it away because it's worth a lot. So every decision you make, it's not about driving it cheaper, it's about delivering a return on investment. So I would suggest that, you know, that's another focus on it. Of course, obviously, government departments, anything the government can do to save money, that's less tax I have to pay, the better. But you know, so open source software, that type of stuff. Yeah, there are some obvious ones, but there's also the big. You know, when people just say to me, "Can't we just reduce the price?" Well, no, it delivers what you wanted. It's a fair price. You get your return on investment. Thanks very much.
So what you're saying is correct, but what I asked is that customer trend is changing. Depends on the trend, the business has to change. Then every time, if we are going to invest money on technology, we only will have time to spend money on technology. But it's if it is depends on the cloud computing or the cloud, and depends on the trend, we can get the mashup applications. That means that customer trend analysis aspect, that functionality we can get it. That means pay-per-use will normal aspect. Internet everywhere normally we are, as per the usage only we are charging it. Those kind of applications only I ask for. That's the trend now.
Pay-per-use.
Yes, pay-per-use. The cloud applications. It's a hosted somewhere and infrastructure managed by the provider.
When you say pay-per-use, sorry, just are you referring to like your mobile phone in terms of you're only paying for the number of minutes that you utilize?
Yes.
I think depending on the technology that you're looking for, especially if you're doing licenses, that is becoming a common question. We do a lot of, Richard does a lot of benchmarking tools, and we do get asked for just if we only use snapshot. With cloud computing, that is going to become easier. I agree with you. But at the end of the day, you have to look at what your requirements are, and then based on those requirements, what your budget is, your return on your investment, and then you have to look at what you're willing to lose or to gain. And if you calculate that correctly, depending on what your objective is at the end of the day, you will find the right system for you. But it might not. If you, for example, we decided a few years ago that our product is a premium product, but we also realized that there was the smaller properties that just couldn't. They wanted the product, but they couldn't afford it. So we were proactive, and we decided to come out with a product for everyone. So I think if you look for the right product that's going to fit your, or for right technology that's going to fit your fit within your requirements, you will find something there. So it's just the research and the ROI, knowing what that is and knowing what your objectives are.
Would you pay for Excel on a pay-per-use?
Yeah, then now Google Apps, pay-per-use. That means it depends on the changing the trends, we can have more functionalities.
Can I ask you a question on that one?
Yeah, thank you.
Google Apps for Excel versus Excel, which do you prefer? They are different, slightly.
But it's improving like anything now.
But there's a difference, right?
Yeah, there is a difference.
Exactly. So you pay for what you get.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ali, for the question. It's